This episode of the Red Bull Rant is brought to you by the fine patrons that support us through patreon.com/Red Bull Rant. You can support us for the low price of $1 a month, and you can get exclusive content, including a monthly wrap-up for the New York Red Bulls. We want to send a special shout-out to our patrons who support us at $5 a month. That is our producer-level reward. Thank you to Jeremiah Dempster, William Martin, Clayton John, and Christopher Admack. Now, on to the show.
This is the Red Bull Rant podcast. If you aren't expecting adult language, why even bother listening?
Welcome, my friends, to the Shit Never Ends. This is the Red Bull Rant podcast. I'm your host, Jason Ipico.
I'm Pat McDonald.
I'm Truman, and the season ends, even though the show doesn't. And this is episode 333. There's plenty of trolleys in the ocean. This whole season was circular. Title circular.
Yeah.
Is it really circular, though?
Yeah, it's circular. You gotta feel the flow.
Feel the flow like Naughty by Nature?
That's right.
Feel me flow now, feel me flow.
So this is our season wrap-up show. Before we get to actually talk about it, I gotta bring this up. So I put up a tweet asking for your year-end award candidates, and we got exactly one response from Adam Lane, at Adam from Earth, and it was just the gif from the end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Are you still here? It's over. Go home.
Yeah, everyone's checked out.
Yep. When you're not tweeting post game, no one cares anymore.
Yeah. So thank you to the 5 of you who will listen to this episode.
Thank you, Adam and Taxi, Mike,
Anthony,
Jay,
Metro Capo, because he actually did give us something.
He's
after,
what is it, crazy?
That was the Halloween thing. Which, by the way, happy Halloween, belatedly. But so I asked for best or scariest costumes for both Red Bulls and MLS, and he said for Red Bulls, Chris Armas holding a manager for a life contract, which I absolutely agree with.
Yeah, right.
For MLS, the Colorado Rapids as MLS champions. Garber probably wakes up at night in cold sweats thinking about small 1.0 teams winning things.
Oh, I mean, it's not quite a nightmare this coming weekend, but it's definitely not something he envisioned was going to happen.
No.
What would you consider these two teams? 2.0s? What are they? Are they 2.0s?
Yeah.
Seattle definitely is.
They were the kings of MLS 2.0.
Yeah.
Would you say Seattle created MLS 2.0?
Yes, they did. They invented it, for sure, 100%.
Except they actually really did.
All right, so the Red Bull season was not a great one by any measure of the word. Things looked like they were going to be okay in CONCACAF Champions League. Let me find it on Wikipedia, the actual results for that. There we go. So, the first two legs we in Champions League, we had Atletico Pantoja, and we beat them 5-0 on aggregate. That looked like things were going to go well. Quarterfinals, we lose 6-2 on aggregate to Santos Laguna. At one point, it was tied 2-2 on aggregate, and we just had one really bad half. So you could be forgiven for thinking that was just an aberration. Then we enter MLS play, where we started with a 1-1 draw against Columbus and a 4-1 win over San Jose, which required us scoring, 3 goals in the second half, I think?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, I think it was actually all 4 in the second half. Yeah, all 4. Then went on I'm not going to go through every result, but basically no real. There was one stretch of games from May 11th to June 1st where it looked like this team was getting together, and then it just became up and down the rest of the year. Surprisingly, we managed to put 14 wins on the board. We're literally 500 because it was 14 wins, 6 draws, and 14 losses. So, yeah.
That's some strong mediocrity right there.
Oh, yeah.
Went into the playoffs as the 6th seed? I can't remember what seed were. 6th seed. Okay, yeah. And we lost to we went up 3-1 on Philly and then gave up the lead again.
Yeah.
Oh, time to be alive.
Good old Armis prevent works every time.
All right. So, actually, I guess before we get to postseason awards, let's kind of just general thoughts. Pat, you go first. What are your general thoughts on the season?
I mean, I'll say it's not exactly a shock about how this season ended in terms of them giving up a lead and losing the game. I mean, that's kind of been the story all season. I believe the Red Bulls had the greatest number of points lost, whether it be from a draw, going from a draw to a loss, or a win to a draw to a loss, something like that. And I think it might have been expected points. Like they had the highest expected points to actual points differential in the league this season, something along those lines. I don't know the exact term, whatever it is. So yeah, it's not exactly a shock that's how they went out, and it was just a disappointing season all around. I don't know how Chris Armis has a job. I mean, if he still has a job, I don't really know. Nobody covers this team. For all we know, Thierry Henry's the coach right now. I have no idea. But it's it just was awful. And they put out. I only saw it on Instagram where they're saying this season was unacceptable. We're going to look at everything and make changes. Well, I mean, if you're still keeping Armis, then I'm already not believing at all that you're going to make changes.
Right.
I think the changes are going to be what Red Bull 2 guys can we call up and put them in the starting lineup. I don't see this team overhauling the roster at all. I think next season is going to be possibly even more disappointing. We'll see. So yeah, I think this team's on a downward swing. I think we could be in for a doozy next year because I think like some of our bigger players are going to be gone. I mean, I don't think Kaku's going to be around. I think Aaron Long's going to be gone. And I don't. And just based on the MO of this team, I don't see them replacing them with anybody. So disappointing season, and I think it could be the beginning of a rough patch for this team.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw to start the season was no improving the team from the outside. It was a couple, like you said, Red Bull 2 call-ups, and that was it. I mean, the super-duper late addition of Josh Sims notwithstanding, I mean, that wasn't really improving this team until it was kind of too late. Yeah. And, right, Dennis Hamlin can say all I want. He's going to look at every facet of the team, but, right, I don't believe that. Why would you? We haven't seen anything to believe it. They lost talent last year and they did nothing to replace it. It's just you got exactly what we expected. I mean, we were hoping it was going to be a better year because of how well they played, but you can't lose dynamic players and expect to succeed. And it was just Bradley finally got old. Finally, after all these years, got hurt, got old. You have Brian Whiteplay gets hurt at a crucial part of the season. And there was just nothing there. The dream of Pat's right winger never showed up. That guy never came to be. So I think the biggest bummer on the season as a whole was just so many home losses. I think that was really the worst part, especially as we invested money in those games and just got to see disappointment after disappointment to god-awful teams, horrible teams. That was really the worst part. And the part's probably the most unforgiving, and that is coaching. Yep. Coaching is why you lose to bad teams at home.
Yep.
Coaching is just why you lose to bad teams, period. and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it when we start ranting about other New York sports teams. But case in point is Adam Gase of the New York Jets. So to go on the not really building this team from the outside. So looking at Wikipedia, 9 players were brought into this team this year. Amro Tarek was acquired via trade. Marcus Epps, who played the very first game of the year and then was loaned out to New York Red Bulls 2 and Swope Park Rangers in USL, was also was picked up in the waiver draft.
Yeah, let's not forget they tried to play him up like, oh no, he's going to make a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a reason Philadelphia didn't want him. The Rizza was here on a free transfer from Salzburg because they're just like, whatever. Fernandez.
Yeah.
Omir Fernandez is a homegrown contract. Jorgensen was supposed to be the big signing and barely played, went to Red Bulls 2. Sean Nealis.
I remember when the Red Bulls were still covered by The Athletic, and they like how it was Christian Dyer, who, you know what, he does what he does to cover this team, so I hate shitting on him, but that he wrote the article like, oh no, this is a now signing, this is what this is, and it's like, clearly he was not.
Yeah. Sean Nealis was a draft pick. Tom Barlow was from New York Red Bulls 2. Reese Buckmaster was from Red Bulls 2. And then Josh Shims on loan. They went and splurged on one person, and that person didn't even play major minutes for this team.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Great improvements, guys.
Yep. Just a complete organizational failure from not doing enough to bring talent in. We talked about it ad nauseum. Basically, they want to be a feeder team for Leipzig, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they're not acting like they actually care about results, and that's the bigger issue. You can be a feeder team and perform. I mean, what was it, like a year? No, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. We were all laughing at New York City fans for getting upset about it, but look at them. As much as they lost their playoff game, they were number 1 in the East, and they are a quote feeder team for Man City.
Yep.
Yeah. You can be a feeder team, and then you can add a couple pieces to improve your current roster.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I don't think there's many Red Bull fans who would complain about Red Bull 2 guys coming up, academy kids playing for the team, stuff like that. Especially if you're a U.S. national team fan as well, because you want to see homegrown talent eventually go on to perform for the national team, much like Tyler Adams has done when he's healthy. But it's you can't just do that, especially when LAFC, who admittedly is not in the championship, signs Carlos Vela and among other players. Or when Atlanta United has, I say it all the time on the show, Joseph Martinez, Miguel Almiron. You can't just do that. It'd be great. It'd be great if you could, but it's just not feasible. Maybe someday when they open up the territories and, you can pick kids from anywhere and really get your pick of the litter. But right now, you got to bring talent from the outside. And it doesn't have to be over the hill past their prime guys anymore, as we've seen with some of these teams. So it's really overdue for Red Bull to open up the checkbooks, bring players in. I mean, they had lightning in a bottle when Marsh showed up. We were averaging 20,000 fans a game. I don't care when anybody says, I don't care about attendance. That stadium is so much fucking better when it's full. And it's something I miss, especially now that I have season tickets. And I've attended this season. I'm now already in on next season of not, going to be seeing very full stadiums. Let's make some drastic changes.
And I mean, it's sad when you look at it because it's not like they have to actually spend money, right? MLS puts roster stuff in place. You got like 2 or 3 different forms of allocation money. You got a decent amount of cap room. I mean, Atlanta came in second year, won the championship. LAFC in their second year won the Shield. This team under Ollie Curtis was picking off the right players because Curtis knew how to work the MLS rules. I don't think Dennis Hamlin has that experience. I mean, he was Jesse's assistant before getting promoted to GM. So I don't know if he has the background to be at a GM position. And maybe part of the problem also is just the edict. If they're saying don't spend money because we want to prevent the academy players, then you know what? At some point you got to dump some of these academy players, right? If you're going to have this whole New York Red Bulls 2, which granted didn't win a title this year, but was a pretty strong team up until like the last month of the season, didn't just fucking clear house and be done with it. Let's just end the charade. Just clean everybody out, right? Even the guys on this team that were academy players that weren't performing, they're gone. Let's just start fresh. You want to be a feeder team? Fine. Just fucking promote Red Bulls 2, have them as the first team, and everybody else can fuck off because then what's the point of being here?
Yeah, it's either you're all in on just going from JV to varsity, or invest. It's not hard to invest in just a couple players. It's really not. They just don't want to spend the money.
I mean, like I said, the salary cap. It's in Wikipedia for 2018. The salary cap in MLS was $4 million per team. It's not like ML or LAFC and Atlanta are getting away with spending so much more money than anybody else. They're still dealing with the fucking salary cap.
Right.
You only get a few slots where you get to go over.
They're designated players. They're spending $21, $23 million.
But that's only 3 spots. You still have to have the depth to be around them.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is they are still pumping in more money than the Red Bulls are.
Oh, yes, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, it's like the Red Bulls, when they sign designated players, it seems like they sign half measures. You know? I mean, who was that guy that we got from Israel a few years ago who was like, he was a designated player, and he played, 2 games?
I have no idea. But I mean,
So I think,
we're one of the lowest salary teams in the league is because we're not using the literal free money that MLS has for us.
well, designated players, let's be clear, is not free money.
No, I'm talking regular salary cap players because you can pay a guy up to $500,000 and not have him be a designated player.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all recall the Dax McCarty trade where we was traded for allocation money that they never used.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
They think we forgot about that. We didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's try to hand out some awards. So defensive player of the year. Truman, you go first. Who was your defender for the year?
Listen, I'll be honest. I got nobody for this because the defense was just so shoddy. I guess the only thing I can give it to is what the Red Bulls gave it to is Christian Caceres. I mean, he put up some good stats because aside from him, Aaron Long had issues.
He regressed this year.
Right, Tim Parker had issues. Maria, Taxi, I don't know. It's hard. You know what? Fuck it. No, I'm going to give it to Conor Lade because he retired.
There you go.
Listen, he didn't really cost us this season, right?
Nah.
Right? No, it's this year.
That's the fan base. He costs every game he's in.
That's true. But yeah, I'm going to give it to Conor Lade because he's retiring. So there you go.
I'm going to give it to Amro Tarek because every time he was in, he was kind of a rock, and we never expected any of that out of him. So even though he did get hurt and kind of finished him for the season, when he was in there, he was a rock. I mean, he was really good. I mean, there was a reason he was playing at times over Parker and Long. So that's who I'm going to give it to.
I'm going to give it to the goalposts because those things show up every night and they're always strong.
Yep, reliable.
Phillips was very reliable this year.
All right. Offensive player of the year, Pat. You get to go first for this one.
I guess, again, another guy whose season, unfortunately, was derailed by injuries, but you got to go Brian White. I mean, he was really the only offensive threat this season, and he really, he was thrust into a role that I don't think many expected him to take when the wheels just came off for Bradley Wright, unfortunately. And he was scoring on a pretty good clip. So, I'm going to go with Brian White. Let's just hope, I guess, next year that he can continue that.
The man from Flemington, you can't go wrong. I'm with you 100%. I'm going Brian White too. With the reasons you said, he played really well when he was on the field. And again, if he wasn't hurt, I think he would have had an entire season to play really well. Especially coming into, you're stepping in for Bradley Wright Phillips, which isn't an easy spot for the Red Bulls.
No.
But yeah, listen, you got to give it up for the Jersey kid. And like you said, I hope next year he has a healthy year and he really turns it up a notch.
I'm just going to make it 3. This is episode 333, so it kind of works. Brian White was on track to be the team's leading goal scorer until he got hurt. I mean, he was on the season, he's only 5 behind Royer, but he was 2 behind Royer for MLS goals. So, I mean, that kid was literally leading the team in goals until he got hurt. And in a year where we had very bad offensive performances, I mean, our goal difference is only +2 in the regular season.
Yeah, but maybe it's even plus.
I know. I was kind of surprised, honestly, when I looked at it. It's just, he's the only bright spot on the offensive side of the ball this year. And my only hope is that if he's going to be the guy that's given the starting reins next year, hopefully he improves. And hopefully he has some goddamn service around him, so it's not...
That's the biggest part, right?
Because as much as Wright Phillips was hurt this year, like last year when his production started to slip, it was because the support around him wasn't there.
Yeah, there's no other goal threat. I mean, that's what we've run into every playoff season since they've kind of decided to go do this on the cheap.
All right. So last is team MVP, and I'm going to change it up. I'm not going to go with the player. I'm going with the fans because we had to sit through this fucking mess of a season.
Wait, hold on. Pat and I had to literally sit through it.
Yeah, right.
And Pat had to sit through a stinky game as well.
That's right. It was very smelly that night.
And you had to sit through a playoff game.
Oh.
In the rain.
God. Yeah.
So I'm giving it to all the fans that have suffered this year, especially those that were at the games.
I'm going to give my team MVP to Calix the Castigator from Forza Lucha. Because when we needed him, he showed up in a big spot and totally came through.
I'm going to give it to Matthias Jorgensen because he just exemplifies everything that's wrong with this team. He's just another one of those, like, yeah, he's for now. So I think he exemplifies exactly the underachieving mediocrity of the New York Red Bulls. So Matthias Jorgensen gets my MVP. $10 says he gets transferred out after this season.
Okay, I wouldn't take that bet because I think I think it's going to happen.
So here's the thing: we paid a $2.5 million fee. How much less do we get? Because we're not getting 2.5.
Half.
Yeah, if that.
Here's a question: is he going to one of the? Is he going to go to like Salzburg and start lighting up the Austrian Bundesliga under Jesse Marsch?
He definitely ends up in a Scandinavian team.
Yeah, he goes back to Denmark, where he came from, where he was average.
All right.
I don't remember what team he was on, but they fleeced the Red Bulls.
Let's see. Let's scroll
like
up real
Ubro
quick.
or Rebro.
Odane's Bold Club? Bold Club?
Okay,
Something like
there
that.
you go.
Bolt Club.
Yeah, that sounds
They went
about
out
right.
and bought steak with that money. Oh, they were laughing.
I wonder what their highest transfer out is.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was that.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for the Red Bulls. Quick note about Red Bulls too. They lost in the USL playoffs in the quarterfinals at the Indy 11, so they didn't go very far.
Bummer.
So time for the dumping ground. Jeez, I can't even talk right now.
I'm the trash man.
All right. First, obligatory mention: TFC versus Seattle in the MLS Cup final. That game is Sunday at 3 p.m. I will not plan on watching it, and I will not be watching it because of the next thing we'll talk about. I just hope Giant Meteor wins, and I'll have to hear about MLS till next year.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for Seattle.
Yeah, I guess it's good. Yeah. Seattle, because really, first of all, this game, who cares? And no one wants to see Canada win another one.
Yeah, no. Especially after they beat us in the U.S. in the international game.
Oh yeah.
It'd be kind of coincidental for Michael Bradley to suck it up against Canada and then win a MLS title for him.
That would be a Michael Bradley thing to do.
Yeah. By the way, over under how many years until Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal are forced into the Canadian Soccer League?
Oh, they never. They never. Never. They want that U.S. cash, man.
Oh, I know they want the U.S. cash. I'm talking about FIFA forcing them into it.
I don't see it happening. Well, I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I would be completely stunned if that happened.
I mean, let's not forget, they've made exceptions for Welsh teams in the English Premier League. They'll make exceptions.
I'd be stunned.
We'll see. All right. Next up is the game I'll be watching on Sunday, and that is the New York Jets versus the New York Giants.
Well, we're just really quick dumping ground, since we'll just stay soccer real quick. U.S. national team has their next round of the Nations Cup coming up, and Greg Berhalter decided to name a roster that does not include Weston McKennie, does not include Christian Pulisic, does not include Zach Steffen. It actually includes a lot of first-timers. So when you really want to stick it back to Canada and blow out Cuba, he's treating these like friendlies. And I know the Nations League doesn't have a grand meeting, and the fact of the matter is you should probably put, you could probably put Clint Mathis on a peg leg against Cuba and still win a shit ton of goals. But it just seems like another instance where Greg Berhalter looks like a fish out of water. Hopefully both games go well, but we'll see.
So here's the thing. We say it doesn't have meaning, and I don't think they're going to fall that far down. But top 6 qualify in the FIFA rankings for the Hex now. So you keep losing to these bad teams, that number starts to slip. The only thing we have for us is that we're number 2 in the rankings right now, in terms of CONCACAF anyway.
Yeah, but again, you lose another game to Canada.
Canada went up 6 positions. They jumped into a qualifying position with the win over us.
There you go.
So it's possible. All right. So Jets versus Giants to crown the worst team in New York football. And possibly decide which of the 2 coaches gets fired first. I honestly expected the New York Jets to lose because we lost to the fucking Dolphins of all teams.
14-3 Giants final.
If you're gonna beat us, just please shut us out. Just whatever's gonna take to get Adam Gase fired, because he was a mediocre coach that didn't deserve another job and somehow got one, and then somehow outmaneuvered the GM that hired him to get him fired. This guy didn't want to stick around the Dolphins because they were going to tank, and I get that. But he was not a good coach in Miami.
He was a terrible hire. I don't know what to tell the Jets were thinking. I mean, you kind of got to hope for the Jets' sake they cut big, because everything I hear about Joe Douglas is that he actually knows what he's doing, and now he didn't get to do the draft or free agency, so it'd be stupid to kind of fire him, especially when he's already fleeced the Giants for some draft picks, because Dave Gettleman's like, oh yeah, we're going to sign him. I'm like, you could have signed him for free at the end of the season, asshole.
Yep.
Good job. I actually think the Giants are going to lose, and I think this is kind of like the Dolphins game was for the Jets last week. Like one of those games where despite how bad you are, you're expected to win. And I can just kind of feel like that's what's going to happen this week, and therefore I think the Jets are going to win.
Please, it's just sad that I'm actively rooting against the Jets only to get the head coach fired right now.
I kind of feel like each fan base is rooting against their team.
Yeah, get that draft pick, man.
Then you know what? Can we get a score, or not a scoreless draw, but can we just get a tie? Let's do that. Either team wins, either team loses.
Oh no, I want a scoreless draw. 0-0.
Sure. Well, let's do 75 minutes of football with no scoring.
That would be the epitome of terrible.
Especially with the Jets' pass and rush defense that are non-existent this year.
Yeah.
Someone suggested on the Fan the other day that this should be a loser leaves town match. So whoever loses, the coach has to leave immediately. Bags are packed at the game, and then that's it. They pick up their bags and they walk out, never to come back again.
Whoever loses has to get relegated to college.
They get relegated to XFL.
I was going to say, whoever loses has to actually go back to New York.
Yeah. The New York Dragons takes their place. Or that's the name of the team. No, what is it? New York
Defenders.
That's it.
I don't know why I knew that off the top of my head. Is it sad that I think the New York Defenders could be better football than the Jets or Giants this year?
Well, they won't be, but I mean, listen, I guess they can't get anywhere.
I said could.
Win a 2-win team.
Well, I'll say, is it sad that I'm looking forward to the XFL because of how bad New York football is right now?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Do you guys know who the QB is for them? I didn't until I looked it up. So
Trent Dilfer, I don't know.
No, although that probably would have made some sense. Matt McGloin.
Cool.
I've heard that. I think he had a brief time in the NFL. I think he was an Alabama quarterback, if I remember correctly.
Yay. All right. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I thought Jay was fact-checking.
I was on like the XFL site. I'm like, all right, maybe they'll give me some info. No. I'm sorry. And it's the New York Guardians, not Defenders.
Okay.
Guardians, okay.
Doesn't fucking matter. They should have been the New York Guardians. That would have been cool.
Okay, yeah. So Matt McGloin was a starting quarterback for the Penn State Nittany Lions from 2010 to 2012.
Wow, what a resume.
I know. And then he spent a few years at the Raiders as a backup, then got traded to Philly, or not traded, but signed with Philly, then Houston, then Kansas City. So, all right, so that was it for me for Dumping Ground.
That's it. There ain't nothing to talk about. Season sucked.
Yeah.
All right. Should we do Pat's betting corner?
Yeah. Got one game.
I'm going with Seattle.
I wonder what the actual spread is.
Give us a score line at least.
All right, hold on. Let's see. 3-team parlay. Jordan Mortis scores a goal. Over 2.5, and Seattle wins. There's your 3-team parlay. Or three-thing parlay.
3-bet parlay.
So, according to this is from oddshark.com, Seattle is listed as the favorite at -125. Toronto, the underdog, at +275. There's no spread. I don't know why there's no spread. I guess it's hard to do spread in soccer now. I think about it.
I don't really do soccer spreads. I mean, they exist, but
It's hard to do.
yeah.
All right. So that leaves us with our only segment. I'm not sure if you have something, but it's time for Truman's Terrible Team of the Week.
That's terrible.
It has to be terrible team of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the week, but I'm going to give you the terrible team of the year, and I'm going to blow your mind because I'm going to say it's LA 2. Because there's no reason they should have lost that game. There's no reason to be the Shield winner to have a one-game playoff where you don't have to play a road leg and lose at home to Seattle. Listen, I know there's an experience difference with Seattle and them, but there was no reason, none, at all. So I'm gonna give it to them. Sorry, overrated, man.
I gotta say, you have no idea how many times this season I'd have a 3-team parlay, and I would have the first 2 games good, and my last game would be LAFC at home against scrub teams, whatever, and they would come up with a draw or a loss. They've choked a surprising amount this year and at home, and so I guess kind of when I saw that they lost, I was like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
All right. So with that being said, let's wrap this up. You can visit us at patreon.com/Red Bull Rant. $1 a month is all you need for exclusive content, such as our monthly wrap-ups or any live post-game stuff we do. You can email us, redbullrant@gmail.com. If you want to call us, 973-348-5329. Facebook.com/Red Bull Rant. On Twitter, @RedBullRant for the show, at Dr. Stooge for myself, at PMACDA2 for Pat, at The Truman for Truman. Subscribe to the show via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. Last words before we get out of here.
Fucking see you next year, I guess.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what winger you signed from the Austrian second division.
We'd be lucky for second division.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, this is obviously the last one of the year, unless something big happens. So
It's the Red Bulls. There won't.
If Chris Armas somehow magically gets fired before Christmas, we'll do something. But
Yeah, good luck.
hey, remember that one year that it happened to Marquez?
That's true. I still don't see it happening.
Oh, I know. All right, for Pat, Truman, and myself, this has been episode number 333 of the Red Bull Rant. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next year.
Bye-bye.
Late.